Have you ever felt, deep down, that there is a version of yourself living a life that feels completely out of reach? A life where everything flows effortlessly, where abundance, joy, and clarity are not just fleeting moments, but a constant experience? Most of us live as if that version of ourselves is a distant dream, a maybe someday scenario, but what if I told you that your future self is not somewhere out there in some far-off time? What if I told you that your future self is already living this reality, right now, waiting for you to step into it? It is easy to get caught in the patterns of our current life, to feel trapped by circumstances, habits, and the invisible walls we've built around ourselves over time. We often define ourselves by what we see in the mirror, by our past experiences, or by the limits others have projected onto us. Yet all of that, the fear, the doubt, the sense of not enoughness, is just the old self speaking. The old self is the part of you that clings to comfort zones, that fears change, that doubts that you can ever truly shift the reality you experience. Now, imagine for a moment that your future self exists already, not as a fantasy, not as some wishful thinking, but as a living, breathing presence in the quantum fabric of your reality. This self has already moved past the fears, the doubts, the scarcity, and the uncertainty that weigh you down today. This self embodies confidence, clarity, and alignment with everything you have ever truly desired. The fascinating thing is, the only thing standing between you and this version of yourself is the awareness that you are already connected. You are already intertwined. The future is not something to wait for, it is a state to inhabit. When you allow yourself to truly feel this connection, even for a brief moment, a subtle shift occurs. You begin to notice that thoughts are lighter, choices feel easier, and opportunities seem to appear almost effortlessly. This is not magic, it is the natural law of vibration at work. Your future self vibrates at a frequency of alignment, and when you start to resonate with that frequency, reality begins to reflect it back to you. Every fear-based thought, every pattern of self-doubt, every hesitation is simply the echo of the old self trying to keep you small. But when you consciously step into the awareness of your future self, those echoes lose their power. They are no longer your reality, they are merely passing clouds. You may ask, how can I even begin to feel this future self? How can I know I am not just imagining it? The answer is simple yet profound. Start by noticing how it feels to already be that version of you. Close your eyes and allow yourself to imagine the life that feels natural to your heart, the life where you are living fully, freely, and with purpose. Feel the emotions, the calm, the joy, the clarity. Let yourself feel what it is like to have already achieved, already aligned, already manifested what you desire. These feelings are your bridge. They are the first step in collapsing the distance between now and what is already possible. And here lies the most beautiful part. You do not need to force it. You do not need to struggle, hustle, or chase the version of yourself you admire. The future self is already present. It is a vibration, a consciousness, a knowing. Your only task is to allow it to guide you, to let it influence your thoughts, your choices, and your emotional state. When you do this, your reality begins to shift naturally, seamlessly, almost effortlessly. Life becomes less about fighting against what is, and more about flowing into what has always been waiting for you. By the end of this journey, you will understand that the life you have been longing for is not a distant goal, it is a present truth. Your future self is calling, not as a distant dream, but as a living, breathing reality that you can choose to inhabit right now. The key is awareness, intention, and the willingness to feel deeply that your best self is already here. All that remains is for you to take the first step consciously into this alignment, and watch as your world transforms in ways you may never have imagined. When we speak of your future self, it is not just a poetic idea, it is a tangible presence, a consciousness that already exists within the quantum fabric of your life. Science and spirituality meet here in a profound way. Quantum physics teaches us that time is not linear, that every moment exists simultaneously, and that the potential of who we are and who we can become is already present in the field of possibilities. Spiritual traditions across cultures have long recognized the existence of higher selves, of guides, and of parallel versions of ourselves living in alignment with our highest potential. Your future self is simply your own higher consciousness stepping forward, ready to show you what is possible when you operate from alignment rather than resistance. It is natural to feel skeptical. Our minds are trained to perceive reality in a very linear, logical way. We are conditioned to believe that change happens gradually, that success comes only after endless struggle, and that the version of ourselves we admire is always somewhere in the future. But when you pause and observe carefully, you begin to notice signs, subtle nudges, and synchronicities that hint your future self is already here. Perhaps you felt an unexplained sense of calm in a chaotic moment, or experienced clarity when making a difficult choice. Maybe an idea comes to you fully formed, or a solution appears out of nowhere. These are glimpses of your future self communicating through your present consciousness, offering guidance, insight, and alignment. Contrast is key here. Your old self often experiences life through the lens of limitation. Fear, scarcity, and self-doubt create a constant tension between what is and what could be. Every decision feels heavy, every step forward is a struggle. Your future self, however, operates from a place of ease, trust, and certainty. The world appears abundant because the lens through which it is perceived has shifted. Opportunities are recognized and acted upon instinctively, and challenges are met with calm, creative solutions rather than resistance. By understanding this contrast, you can begin to identify which parts of your current reality are simply echoes of the old self and which are aligned with your future potential. The bridge between the present and the future is not physical, it is vibrational. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are not just abstract ideas. They are measurable vibrations that influence the reality around you. When your inner world aligns with the frequency of your future self, your external world begins to mirror it. This is why so many people feel stuck. They are operating at a frequency that reflects the old self's fears, doubts, and limitations. It is not about forcing reality to change, it is about allowing your own vibration to shift, and letting reality respond naturally to the resonance you create. One of the first steps in awakening to your future self is cultivating awareness. Notice the patterns that keep you small, the recurring doubts, the fears of failure, the resistance to change. Then gently observe the moments where you feel expanded, inspired, or aligned. These are the whispers of your future self reaching out. Meditation, journaling, and conscious reflection are powerful tools here. They allow you to step back from the noise of everyday life and recognize the signals that your future self is already present, guiding you toward alignment. It is also important to understand that this is not a process of judgment. The old self is not bad or wrong. It is simply conditioned to operate from a narrower perspective, shaped by past experiences and societal programming. The future self, on the other hand, embodies expanded awareness and possibility. The key is integration, not rejection. By observing the old self without attachment, and consciously choosing to act from the perspective of the future self, you begin to collapse the gap between who you are today and who you are becoming. Emotion is the bridge that connects the mind to the future self. Feelings of joy, gratitude, and inspiration are indicators that you are resonating with your future self. Conversely, fear, anxiety, and self-doubt signal disconnection from that higher alignment. The beauty of this process is that it is experiential. The more you practice feeling from the perspective of your future self, the more natural it becomes to embody that energy in your daily life. You start to make choices effortlessly, respond to challenges with grace, and attract opportunities that feel perfectly aligned. As you begin to tune into this consciousness, you may notice subtle changes in your reality. Small synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, and a sense of flow begin to appear. Doors that once seemed closed now open easily. Relationships, work, finances, and personal growth start to shift as your vibration aligns with what is possible. These are not random events. They are confirmations from your future self that you are on the right path. Ultimately, awakening to your future self is about trust. Trust that you are already complete, already aligned, and already capable of living the life you desire. It is about letting go of the need to make it happen, and instead allowing yourself to be guided by the wisdom, presence, and energy of the self who already knows how. The journey is both gentle and profound. Gentle because it requires no struggle, profound because it can transform every aspect of your experience once you consciously choose to align. By the end of this awakening, you will see that the future self is not a distant goal to chase. It is a living, breathing reality that is already here. And when you begin to recognize, honor, and embody this presence, your entire life shifts in ways that feel effortless, natural, and deeply fulfilling. The question is not whether it is possible. The question is, are you willing to feel, acknowledge, and live as the self that already exists within you, waiting for your conscious participation? Now that you have awakened to the presence of your future self and felt the subtle yet profound shift it brings, the next step is learning how to bridge the gap between your current reality and the reality that is already waiting for you. This is where theory meets practice, where understanding becomes lived experience. Many people make the mistake of thinking that simply knowing about their future self is enough. Knowledge alone does not transform reality, alignment does. Your future self exists as a vibration, a state of consciousness, and to bring that self fully into the present, you must learn to think, feel, and act from that higher frequency. The first tool in this process is visualization. Not the casual, half-hearted daydreaming you may have done before, but a deep, immersive experience of inhabiting your future self. Close your eyes and imagine the life that feels most natural to you. Not a life that seems possible based on your current circumstances, but the life that your soul knows is already yours. Picture yourself moving through each day with ease, clarity, and joy. Notice how your future self speaks, how they carry themselves, the choices they make, and the energy they exude. Feel the emotions as vividly as possible: gratitude, freedom, confidence, and love. When you do this consistently, even for just a few minutes each day, you begin to recalibrate your inner state to match the reality you are calling forward. Next, consider your beliefs. Your current beliefs are like lenses through which you perceive the world. They filter what you notice and shape how you interpret your experiences. The old self holds on to limiting beliefs: I am not enough, this will never work, or I must struggle to achieve success. Your future self does not recognize these limitations. Instead, it operates from trust, certainty, and knowing. To bridge the gap, you must consciously identify which beliefs belong to the old self and choose to replace them with empowering alternatives. For example, shift from "I have to wait for things to happen" to "I am already living in alignment with my desires." This simple reframing is a powerful tool because it changes the internal narrative, and as the inner narrative shifts, the outer reality begins to respond accordingly. Emotion is the second equally vital tool. Think of emotions as the language of your future self. When you feel joy, excitement, or gratitude, you are signaling alignment with the reality you wish to inhabit. Conversely, when fear, anxiety, or frustration dominate, you are resonating with your old reality. The practice here is conscious emotional calibration. Notice your feelings throughout the day and intentionally shift toward the emotions your future self would naturally feel. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is perfect. It is about conscious resonance. You acknowledge the old self without judgment and intentionally move toward the frequency of alignment. Over time, this emotional discipline becomes natural, and your external world begins to mirror your inner state. Action is the third pillar of bridging the gap. While your future self exists as a state of being, the present still requires participation. Actions are the physical expressions of your inner alignment. Ask yourself, what choices would my future self make in this situation? What would they say, how would they respond, and what steps would they take? When you act from this perspective, even small decisions ripple outward, reinforcing the reality you are stepping into. It is not about forcing outcomes. It is about letting the wisdom and energy of your future self guide you toward actions that feel effortless yet purposeful. Contrast is an essential tool to understand your progress. Observe the difference between the old self and the future self in real-life scenarios. When fear and doubt arise, take note. This is the old self trying to maintain the status quo. When clarity, courage, and inspiration appear, recognize that as the voice of the future self guiding you. By consistently noticing these contrasts, you train your mind to distinguish between the reactive patterns of limitation and the intuitive guidance of alignment. This practice is subtle but transformative. It strengthens your ability to make decisions that consistently resonate with your highest potential. Another key element is surrender. Many seekers fall into the trap of trying to force reality into alignment. The future self is never forced, it flows. Surrender here does not mean inaction, it means trust. Trust that the universe, your consciousness, and the quantum field are responding to your vibrational frequency. When you combine conscious alignment with surrender, you create a magnetic field that effortlessly draws circumstances, people, and opportunities into resonance with your future self. The paradox is profound. The more you let go of trying to control every detail, the more powerful your manifestation becomes. Daily practices amplify this process. Morning rituals that center you, journaling exercises that reconnect you with your future self, meditation that attunes your vibration, and intentional gratitude practices all reinforce alignment. Even small moments, pausing to breathe, feeling the joy of something simple, or imagining a desired outcome, serve as anchor points that pull your reality closer to the life already lived by your future self. The key is consistency, not perfection. Each moment you consciously choose alignment, you are bridging the gap between now and what is already possible. Let us also speak about patience and trust in timing. Your current reality may not yet fully reflect your future self, and that is not failure, it is the natural unfolding of a process. Quantum reality shifts often occur in subtle, unseen ways before manifesting in the physical world. By remaining connected to your future self, by feeling, thinking, and acting from this state, you are creating momentum. The visible changes will follow naturally, often in ways that surpass even your imagination. Finally, remember that this is not a one-time exercise. It is a lifestyle of conscious alignment. Your future self is already living this reality. Your role is to inhabit it moment by moment. Through visualization, emotional calibration, conscious action, and consistent awareness, the bridge between now and the future collapses. Slowly, imperceptibly, effortlessly, you begin to embody the life you have always known is possible. Life stops being about chasing a distant dream and begins being about experiencing a reality that has always existed, waiting for your conscious participation. Now that you have learned how to bridge the gap between your present reality and your future self, the next step is learning how to live as your future self daily. This is where transformation becomes tangible. It is one thing to feel glimpses of your future self during meditation or visualization exercises. It is another to consistently inhabit that state in every choice, every thought, and every interaction. Daily living as your future self is about integration, turning alignment from a practice into a lifestyle. Start by noticing your habits. Your daily routines are reflections of who you believe yourself to be. Are your actions aligned with the future self you envision? Or do they echo the old self, operating out of comfort, fear, or inertia? This is not about judgment. It is about observation. Awareness alone begins the shift. As you identify habits that no longer serve the version of you who is fully aligned, you can gently replace them with practices that mirror the life you wish to live. For instance, if your future self is calm, focused, and intentional, consider how your mornings, conversations, and responses can reflect that energy. Small, conscious choices ripple outward, transforming your reality incrementally but profoundly. Another critical aspect is language and self-talk. The words you speak to yourself are powerful indicators of alignment. Does your inner dialogue reflect doubt, scarcity, or fear? Or does it reflect trust, possibility, and confidence? Speaking from the perspective of your future self is like sending a signal to your subconscious mind, which then shapes your perception, decisions, and ultimately your reality. Practice affirmations, journal prompts, and intentional speech that mirrors the person you are becoming. These are not mere words. They are vibrational tools that calibrate your energy to the frequency of your future self. Emotional consistency is equally vital. Your future self operates from a state of expanded emotions: gratitude, joy, love, curiosity, and calm confidence. When you cultivate these emotions daily, they become the lens through which you perceive reality. It is natural for the old self to resist or react to challenges with fear or frustration. When this happens, pause and ask, what would my future self feel right now? This simple practice of emotional redirection begins to reshape your experience, subtly guiding your interactions, decisions, and reactions to align with the self that already exists. Integration also involves environment and energy management. Your surroundings, the people you engage with, and the media you consume all influence your vibration. Aligning with your future self means consciously curating these aspects to support growth, inspiration, and expansion. Surround yourself with reminders of the reality you are stepping into: books, art, symbols, or experiences that resonate with the life you wish to embody. Similarly, notice the energy of those around you. Seek relationships and interactions that elevate rather than deplete your alignment. Your environment can either anchor you to the old self or propel you toward the future self. Awareness and intention make the difference. Decision-making is another crucial area where daily embodiment takes form. Every choice, no matter how small, is a reflection of the self you are operating from. Your future self makes decisions with clarity, trust, and confidence, often guided by intuition. To live daily as your future self, practice pausing before decisions and asking, what would the highest version of me do right now? Over time, this becomes second nature. Choices that once felt heavy, confusing, or stressful begin to flow with ease, and the external world responds to the clarity and alignment of your internal state. A vital component of daily living as your future self is self-compassion. The journey is not linear, and there will be moments when the old self resurfaces, times of doubt, fear, or distraction. These moments are natural and necessary for growth. Instead of judgment or guilt, approach them with gentle curiosity. Recognize the old self, appreciate its role in your life, and then consciously return to alignment. This compassionate approach strengthens your connection to your future self and ensures that transformation is sustainable rather than forced. Integration through embodiment practices can accelerate the process. Movement, breath work, meditation, and mindfulness exercises are all tools that allow you to physically and emotionally anchor into the frequency of your future self. For example, taking deep, intentional breaths while visualizing your desired reality can synchronize body, mind, and energy. Embodying posture, gestures, and facial expressions of your future self may seem subtle, but they send powerful signals to your subconscious, reinforcing alignment and helping your reality mirror the state you are cultivating. Finally, living as your future self daily requires commitment to presence. Your future self exists here and now, not in some distant point. By practicing awareness, alignment, and conscious choice each day, you collapse the illusion of separation. Life ceases to be a constant struggle toward something out there and becomes a lived experience of joy, purpose, and effortless flow. Every moment becomes an opportunity to step fully into the self that already exists within you. When these practices are integrated consistently, the old self begins to fade into the background. Fear gives way to trust, doubt to clarity, scarcity to abundance. You no longer chase a distant dream, you embody a living reality. Life responds in kind, presenting opportunities, relationships, and experiences that resonate with the version of yourself you now inhabit. In essence, the future self you once imagined becomes the present self you now live, and every day is an affirmation of this alignment. As we come to the close of this journey, take a moment to pause and reflect. Everything you have learned, everything you have felt, has always been within you. The future self you envision is not a distant ideal. It is already a living, breathing part of your being, waiting for your conscious choice to step into alignment. The beauty of this process lies in its simplicity. You do not need to chase or strive for something outside of yourself. Your future self is not a far-off destination. It is the natural extension of who you already are. The only thing standing between where you are now and where you want to be is the awareness that you are already there. Throughout this script, we have explored how your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions shape the reality you experience. You have learned how to tune into the frequency of your future self, to bridge the gap between present limitations and future possibilities, and to live from a place of conscious alignment. But now the question remains, are you ready to fully step into this reality? The first step is to trust. Trust that the path has already been paved, that the life you desire is not something you must make happen, but something that is unfolding naturally in perfect timing. Trust that every challenge, every moment of doubt, and every fear is simply an opportunity to return to alignment. The more you trust in the process, the more you will find that life responds effortlessly. When you step into your future self, you are stepping into the flow of your highest potential. As you continue this journey, remember that the old self is not something to be feared or rejected. It is a part of your story and it has served a purpose. The key is not to fight against it, but to embrace it with love and understanding. The old self is simply the version of you that once believed in limitation, and it is being gently replaced by a higher, expanded version. When you let go of resistance, you create the space for the future self to emerge effortlessly. The future self is already living the life you desire. It is a reality that exists beyond the constraints of time, fear, and doubt. You have already experienced it in moments of clarity, joy, and alignment. Your task is not to create something new, but to simply recognize that it is already here, waiting for you to claim it as your own. You are not separate from this version of yourself. You are already one with it. Take this knowing with you. Your reality is not fixed. The life you desire is not outside of your reach. It is already available to you the moment you choose to align with it. The only thing required is the willingness to feel, think, and act from the perspective of your future self. This is the magic of quantum manifestation. It is not about forcing or striving. It is about becoming the person who already embodies the reality you wish to experience. Every decision, every action, every moment of self-awareness brings you closer to this alignment. It is not about perfection. It is about presence. The more you align with the energy of your future self, the more the universe will mirror this back to you. You will begin to see opportunities, relationships, and circumstances fall into place in ways that feel effortless. Life becomes less about chasing and more about allowing. The future self is not something you need to seek. It is already here, guiding you, supporting you, and waiting for you to step into its vibration fully. As you move forward, continue to trust in the process, to practice awareness, and to live from the perspective of your future self. Know that every moment is a chance to align, every thought is an opportunity to shift, and every action is a reflection of the life you are already creating. The future self is not a distant dream. It is your present reality waiting to be embraced fully. Now, I invite you to take a deep breath and feel into this truth. The life you have always desired is already within your reach. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to wait for it. All you need to do is step into it fully and consciously. Your future self is already living this way. Now it is time for you to live it too.